Perfect. So our first recipe, and then we'll be doing some cocktail trivia in between. Our first recipe is called the isolation lemonade, super appropriate for the times. So if anyone's following along with me, I'll start going through the steps here. So over in my close-up cam, and if you guys have trouble finding that, I know some people trickled in, you can find it in gallery mode. We're gonna start with some fresh blueberries. So I recommend grabbing your recipe sheets if you're following them, say like 3 to 4. That's a pretty conservative amount. I usually recommend to add as many as you'd like. So I'm going to use like between 6 and 8 fresh blueberries here. Just throw them right into our building glass or the large side of your shaker. And then we're going to grab a couple of little basil leaves. So I'm going to grab like 3 larger ones and throw them right in over the blueberries. Fresh basil is one of my favorite ingredients. And then let's muddle that up. Pretty easy muddle. The idea is to break up the blueberries and get them into a puree or a jam-like texture. And you also want to hit that basil a bit, but you don't necessarily have to destroy the basil. It's just a matter of getting it kind of ground into the mix. And I'll give you guys a sec to catch up here. And if anyone's following along, I'm ever moving too fast for you, just feel free to let us know in the chat, and we can always backtrack. You can also check out the chat for some of the measurements that we're repeating here. And Malin's there to help if you need to private message her. So great. We are looking so good so far. You got some crushed blueberries with the basil all ground into the mix. And that's going to be the base of our cocktail today. So one of my favorite things about both of the recipes today is they both work with a lot of different spirits, so a lot of different booze. If you are mixing with us or if you're just drinking with us, show us your favorite bottle to the camera so we can talk about it. What type of spirits are you guys using? We got Tito's. I see some Jack Daniels in the I'm from Tennessee, so that's great for me. And a lot of the Tito's too. This is looking good. Tito's is one of my favorites. So this one's great with whiskey, but we do encourage you to use the bottles that came with your kits. So let's go ahead and I'm actually going to go for some rum. I'm going to use Mount Gay. It's a rum from Barbados. And we're going to be doing 2 ounces of whatever base spirit you guys are using today. So you can measure that out in a shot glass or in the large side of a jigger to get 2 ounces. All right, so far so good. We now have our muddled blueberries. We got some basil in there. We're now adding 2 ounces of our base spirit. Right behind that, let's do some fresh lemon juice. So to give that isolation lemonade, the lemonade portion, we're going to do about ½ of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. You can either measure that out if you have some juice in a bottle, or if you happen to be using a fruit press, some people might have these on hand. You'll just cut a lemon in half and squeeze it like so. Half of a lemon is usually about ½ an ounce of juice, so you can just squeeze a half there. All right, so now we have our ½ ounce of lemon. To balance out the sour elements to this drink, we're going to add a sweetener. Whether that's agave or simple syrup, you can even use some honey. All great options here, but I love to mix with agave. It's one of my favorite sweeteners because it's all natural. So let's go ahead and add about 3/4 of an ounce of your sweetener. If you don't like your drinks too sweet, you can scale back a little bit on that, but just make sure you use at least a little bit and we'll be in great shape. All right, team. So far we have all of our liquid ingredients and our muddle all completed. What we're going to do next is we're just going to add some ice and we're going to do a shake. So I'm going to grab a rocks glass or any sort of short glass is going to work great, but you guys are in a judge-free Zoom room. So if you're using something like a red Solo cup or something similar, that's totally fine. But let's go ahead and ice up our glass all the way to the top. And we're also going to ice up our shaker about halfway to 3/4. So I'll give you guys a sec to get all iced here before we shake it up. Over my close-up cam, you'll notice the ice proportion. I have about 3/4 of the way up with ice on the shaker, and my glass is filled all the way to the top. Looks like I do have a couple of people shaking with me. So give me a thumbs up to the camera when you guys are ready to shake. We can do all this together. Great. You guys are keeping up. Awesome. Thank you for that. So let's do it then. If you have a 3-piece shaker, a lot of you guys did, just throw the lid on top and give it a nice little seal. Make sure it's not going to leak on you. If you have a Boston shaker like I do, we're going to connect at an angle. There should be one side that's bonded. I'm going to give it like 2 pats to seal it up. We're going to flip it over to make sure it doesn't leak on you. And then very simply, we're just going to do one hand on top, one hand on the bottom, towards the chest and kind of cocked over the shoulder. And I can't wait to see you guys shake. Let's do it. Nice long shakes. Woo! Looking good. Keep going, guys. That's some good shakers in the house, actually. It's awesome. Woo. So once your hands are frostbitten, they're so cold that you can kind of jot your initials in the frost. How's it going over there? Good. We're going to do our best to separate. If you do get stuck, let us know. We can try to bail you guys out virtually. And then I have my rocks glass all prepared. I'm going to go ahead and strain it out over my fresh ice. That way we're going to get a nice clean pour. I use the rum, so mine might be a little bit darker, but this does tend to come out of more of a pinkish color. I used a lot of basil, so the green kind of offset it there. But I can't wait to see everyone's presentations here. We are going to add a quick garnish. We're going to do some fresh blueberries. I recommend just throwing a couple on top. You can grab a little pinch of like 3 or 4 and just let them float. And then we are also going to garnish with another sprig of fresh basil here. So I'm going to recommend that you grab 1 large leaf, or you can grab the end piece that has a couple of leaves kind of coming off the top. But a little trick that we do in mixology, and also chefs do this while they're cooking, to wake up the aroma of the herbs, we're going to hold it flat in our hand and we're going to give it a hearty slap. Bam. Tastes better if you say bam after you do it. So go for it. I'm just going to kind of let that gently rest on top. Again, everyone's else just should be pink. I used, my basil was a little cosmic and made it into more of a brown color, but I'm going to go on ahead and we're going to do our first cheers. So let's present them, guys. And even if you're drinking something else, those are beautiful. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Mm. How great is that? So easy to drink. Yeah, right? And I'm seeing some really awesome presentations in the cameras too. You guys nailed it. So if you're not mixing with us today, we do encourage you to try these recipes on your own. But Mac's screen over there, that color is perfect. You got like a deep pink. But I'm going to send it over to Malin. We're going to do some cocktail trivia and some polling just to get to know you guys a little bit better, and then a cocktail related question. We'll jump right into our next recipe and we'll go from there. So over to you, Malin. Take it away.
Okay, everyone. So here comes our very first poll. What is your favorite spirit to sip in the fall? And also, please tell us your favorite brands in the chat. Is it vodka, please? Gin all day? Tequila time? Rum makes you the life of the party? Mezcal? Bourbon all day? Scotch neat? No frills? Beer?
A
You're
very
more
enthusiastic beer.
Very beer. That's how all beer drinkers are.
Yes.
And if it's not listed here, please let us know. We're always so curious on new cocktails or different.
We're getting some Tito's love in the chat already. Coffee's always
Coffee.
good.
Okay.
Always a good way to drink.
How about an Irish coffee?
I mean, you know. Tequila. We got some tequila fans in the house. Yeah, any brands that you guys love, tell us in the chat. Once we get the bulk of the answers in, we'll share it up and see what the majority said.
But how do you?
All right. We'll give this another like 10 seconds, then we'll share it up. I do love me some Reyka vodka. We got Patron Silver shout out in the chat. Fall Mule, vodka, apple cider, and ginger beer. That sounds great, Sarah.
Frosé.
Frosé. Got some Grey Goose. Hot apple cider for sure. Nice.
All right, so I'm going to share this up so we can all see. And it looks
the vodka
like
crowd for sure. Feels right.
And again, no mezcal drinkers. You're the only one, Parker.
I'm alone there. Yeah, it's I'm a big mezcal or bourbon person. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you guys ready for your first trivia? What was the first alcoholic beverage ever made in the history of mankind? Was it wine, vodka, whiskey, beer, grog, rum, mead, tequila, soju, or brandy?
Yeah, very few beer fans on that last poll there. Yeah, guys, best guess here. This one's pretty tricky. Think ancient history. And I'll be giving you guys the answer right after we close this one down. Hang on while I Google this. You can Google, we can't stop you, but you know. Poor taste. All right, we're gonna give this another like 15 seconds and then I'll announce the answer as well. And then we'll jump right into cocktail number 2. If you guys are mixing with me today, it's a great time to get a shaker rinsed out once you've voted. All right. Let's see what everyone said. All right, so the majority of you guys said wine. So the year was 7000 BC, around the same time that we invented pottery. It's funny because as soon as we learned how to hold liquids and things, we started fermenting them. So the correct answer is actually 8 of you guys got it. We'd love to see you celebrate. And the answer is mead. Mead. Wine came about 2,000 years later in about 5000 BC. But mead is a lot of you are probably like, what is mead? Mead is a honey-based spirit. So it's made from fermented honey, rice, and berries. And you can actually still get it today. There's a lot of meaderies still around. It's kind of like a hipster resurgence. So try some mead when you can. All right. So we got one more recipe for you. We're going to finish that with just a quick trivia question. And then we're going to jump into some programming based around Sharsheret. So let's go ahead and start mixing. This is a really solid recipe. It's our strawberry thyme gimlet. It's pretty simple, but the good thing about this one is you can always kind of switch out the fruit, switch out the herbs, use the same proportion, and kind of make your own recipe out of it. So great one to hold on to, and pretty simple to put together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a shaker ready. And we're gonna be working with some fresh strawberries, another one of my favorite ingredients. We'll grab like 3 of those. And then what we're gonna do, let's go ahead and slice them up. What I recommend, it's pretty easy. We're going to lay them down flat and cut off the head, so the piece with the green on top, and toss it. And then just slice into it so you get 3 slices of strawberry, like so, 3 or 4, and you can toss that into your shaker. So 2, I saw Shelly, you're gonna slice up 2 to muddle, and then there's gonna be 1 for a garnish. So 2 strawberries, slice off the top and cut into them. That's for our muddling. And as you do that, you can just toss them right into your building glass here. Yeah, 2 or 3 full strawberries is gonna be perfect to muddle. And then for an extra one for the garnish, what I'm going to recommend is take one that looks attractive. It has a nice shape to it. I'm going to lay that one down flat, and without cutting off the green, we're just going to cut it vertically. Because what that gives us is this really cool kind of heart design that's going to look really great on the side of a martini glass. So I'm going to set this aside for later. And you should have 2 strawberries sliced in your building glass to muddle. We're then just going to add 1 sprig of fresh thyme. And I'm going to throw that in with these strawberries. I just saw the Moira Rosé reference. It's pretty funny in the chat. So what we're going to do next is once you have a sprig of fresh thyme, we got 2 strawberries. Let's go ahead and muddle this up. Just piggybacking on the Schitt's Creek joke, there was a time I was doing one of these and I was trying to explain how to chop a grapefruit, and someone unmuted and said, it's like saying fold in the cheese. Like they had no idea what I was talking about. So I had to kind of backtrack there. So we're going to muddle this into a paste-like texture until it breaks up. And you can also get that thyme sprig into the mix. So we're getting those oils infused in with the strawberries. As you can see on my close-up cam here, kind of the consistency we're going for. It's a puree or a jam. Amazing. So that's going to be the base of the cocktail. The next couple of steps are going to be pretty similar to how we did the first recipe. So we're going to do a sweet element and a sour element. We're going to be doing 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. I'm sorry, fresh lemon juice rather. So that's half of a shot glass, or you can go almost to the top on a 1-ounce jigger. Right over the strawberries. I jumped ahead and skipped the most important part, is the alcohol. So let's go ahead and add that in. If anyone's making mocktails today too, there's a lot of good alternatives here. You can always cut out the alcohol and then add a little club soda topper at the end. You'll still get all the flavors and a little bit of effervescence. So good recommendation there. So you've added 3/4 of an ounce of our fresh lemon juice. We're then going to do 2 ounces of whatever base spirit. I'm going to stick with my rum vibes this evening. And you're my last session of the day, so I actually get to drink with you guys today. It's great. So we got 2 ounces of our base spirit. I got 3/4 of an ounce of our fresh lemon juice. Strawberries are muddled. We got some fresh thyme. We're going to balance that out with our sweetener once again. So 3/4 of an ounce of agave or simple syrup, whatever you've chosen to mix with today. You can just eye it out, like I said earlier. And so far, so good. We have all of our ingredients ready. For the serving of this one, I recommend either a martini glass or some sort of a coupe to give a really beautiful presentation and give us that gimlet vibe. I'm going to go ahead and ice up my shaker. If you'd like to chill your martini glass, you totally can by putting some ice water in there. Otherwise, let's just ice up our shakers about halfway to 3/4, just like we did earlier. So just enough to where the ice starts to peek over the liquid, like so, is perfect. So ice all the way up. Let's go on ahead and connect our shakers. You guys are pros after our first cocktail here. So we're gonna go on ahead and connect. If you have a 3-piece shaker, just get the lid on nice and tight. With a Boston, make sure you pat it and flip it over. Very important step there so it doesn't spill on you. One hand on top, one hand on the bottom, and let's shake it up. Let's see it, guys. Beautiful, keep going. Amazing. Good shakes, guys, too. You're nailing it. So do your best to separate. If you get stuck, let us know. And then we're just going to strain it out into a martini glass. I'm going to do that front and center in my close-up cam. Shelly, if you're using a, try squeezing on the metal. And worst case, if you get really stuck, tap it on the side of the counter. It's usually a last resort, but just be really careful if you do that. And let us know if you're still stuck at the end there. Malin can throw you some tips in the chat too. This looks beautiful. We have this, this beautiful kind of sunset pink color coming out of here. Perfect for the day. Then we're just going to do some nice simple garnishes here. The kind of heart-shaped strawberry garnish that I told you about at the beginning, we're just going to put a little score in that diagonally. Scoring is when you just give it a little slit so it can anchor the side of the glass. I'm going to set it on the side like so. And then as we did with the basil in the last cocktail, let's go ahead and add some fresh thyme. I'm going to grab a little bushel, probably about like 3 stems, hold them together nice and tight. I'm going to hold it flat in my hand and I'm going to slap it to release the oils. Bam, I call it spanking the herb. That works too. Make sure that you give it a little hit, just again, wakes up the aroma of the herbs and gives you a really nice presentation too. If you guys look at my close-up cam, this is very photogenic and Instagrammable. Liquid Lab and Sharsheret will throw some hashtags into the chat. So if you guys took any fun cocktail photos, please tag both. But let's do another cheers here. And again, even if you're just drinking other stuff, let's all cheers together. Cheers to Sharsheret and cheers to you guys. Oh, delicious. It's fruity, not as sweet as you would think it would be. Really kind of comes out a little bit dry, and it's all about the presentation on this one too. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed both recipes. We're going to cap it off. We're going to do one more poll just to get to know you guys a little bit better, and then we'll be jumping into the Sharsheret programming right after that. So, Malin, take it away for another poll here.
Okay, guys. How have you been staying busy during the lockdown? And please pick maybe even all of these. This is actually just a list of everything Parker's been doing. So
pretty much.
Netflix and chill, learning a new skill, please tell us in the chat. At-home spa treatments, home or yard renovations, getting creative in the kitchen. Also, let us know what you've been making. You're a workaholic and have never stopped working, hiding from your family, binge drinking, sobbing uncontrollably in the corner. And if it's not here, then please let us know.
I love right when you all the above. Right when you launch this, someone hit binge drinking and sobbing uncontrollably at the exact same time. That's perfect. Yeah, this is pretty much all the steps that I went through for sure. Oh, we're getting some fun ones here. And yeah, throw some stories in the chat. We love to hear some things, especially maybe you started a class that you never finished. A lot of people did that. Puzzles. Yeah, I got into a puzzle thing too. Tracy's learning TikTok. What else we got? Genealogical research. Perfect.
Hiding in the bathroom from your kids. I think everyone. A puppy, we gotta show us in the camera.
Yeah, we do have to see a puppy if you got a new puppy for sure.
And I'm gonna share these up so you can see.
Everyone's Netflix and chilling for sure. So that's something you can't miss. And kind of a little bit of everything else. Lots of workaholics in the house too. Getting lots of COVID tests, so that's always fun. All right. So, and Malin, thank you so much for hosting all the polling and trivia today. I think that'll do it on our end. And I hope you guys enjoyed the recipes. It was a pleasure mixing with everyone today. So just transitioning over, we'd love for you guys to turn your attention over to the screen to see Sharsheret's work come to life through the inspiring stories of the women and men of Sharsheret. And just bear with me 1 second while I get this video up for everyone. And sound's working now. You guys can hear me, right?
Now it is. Yep. If you want to restart.
Let's just start from the beginning. My bad.
I went for a routine mammography and ultrasound. Busy Friday morning, lots of errands planned for the day. Unfortunately, I didn't get to those errands. They came back in to tell me that they needed to do a biopsy.
The idea of the double mastectomy was something that I never really knew anything about. It was like an out-of-body experience. Me, Debbie, having, it was just ridiculous. What is it like as a mother to deal with being BRCA positive and then having your 3 children be BRCA positive? Really, one of the toughest things I've ever gotten through in my life.
My mother was 41 at the time, and I was 13. And my parents said that they had to speak with the family, and they shared that my mother had just recently been diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer.
I myself have been living with metastatic disease for almost 17 years. I was diagnosed at 32. I never imagined I'd reach the ripe old age of 49, which isn't old, I'm joking. But I hope to get to my 50s, 60s, 70s. It's wonderful that we can reach out to Sharsheret and they can guide us.
Sharsheret is a community of support, information, and education. We provide support for women and families directly affected by breast cancer and ovarian cancer. We also educate the broader community about cancer risk and the measures you can take to protect your health.
It was through Sharsheret that I got someone's name who was about a month ahead of me in the process. She gave me information, what to expect, timing on how things would evolve.
The peer program is indispensable.
When I did find out that I had the BRCA gene, I remembered I really felt very alone at the time. And even though my mom and sister had it, my mom was 55 at the time when she decided to have all of her surgeries, and my sister had breast cancer. I couldn't really reach out to my family about it. I was able to find somebody who had had the BRCA gene and had had surgery and was also in her 20s. And that really helped me make my decisions and helped me be less scared of what was my road ahead.
That type of support that somebody really needs in that initial helpless period, when you just need to grasp onto something and you need to know that it's going to be okay. And here is a whole network built specifically for that time.
Whether you realize it or not, you cannot do it alone.
We as patients and providers get overwhelmed initially in finding the best therapies and treatments, and we're busy with medical appointments. But it's just as important to get to the emotional and psychosocial support that Sharsheret provides. Such an important and critical resource for Jewish women out there dealing with breast and ovarian cancer.
Sharsheret has developed a program, Embrace,
where women who are living with stage 4 breast cancer or ovarian cancer can really meet other women
And then
who
what?
are facing the same issues and share the same concerns. A lot of times people just think about Sharsheret as once you're diagnosed. In some cases, you know, even around hereditary. But our experience has been is that people are really calling us even pre-screening.
In 2016, my family got an email from a first cousin. She was tested positive for the BRCA2 gene, and that she was diagnosed, unfortunately, with stage 4 ovarian cancer. And it occurred to me at that moment, it wasn't so much about me, but I have 2 grown daughters, Tanya and Eliana, adult daughters with their own children, that they need to be tested.
Sharsheret is amazing in that they have genetic counselors on staff, they have social workers, and those are really things that are so valuable when you are going through your own journey.
And then when I did get Eliana's results, that's when everything shifted.
My surgery was September 7th, like 2 weeks right before Rosh Hashanah. I hopefully never have to get sick and to have the opportunity to know the information and to do something about it. I just felt so lucky.
Our practice is right in line with Sharsheret's mission of trying to really educate about hereditary genetics. So having an awareness and a passion about educating about the importance of family history and genetics is really key to help cancer prevention.
It's really important for us to partner with the medical community. We serve as a resource for Sharsheret so that they can reach out to us if there's something new that's come out in the field, some new medical information or treatment or diagnosis option out there.
I've written blogs. I've helped with answering patients' questions.
I feel comfortable referring a patient to Sharsheret because I know that they're going to have good support and good advice, and they're going to be working with extremely competent people and that they'll be very well taken care of.
As a mother of a single daughter who was diagnosed with cancer, I became the primary caregiver. It was just part of my life then, to just be there for her, be able to get the things that she needed.
Sharsheret has developed a program specifically for family members and caregivers.
Their continued support is important for families, not just the people going through the surgeries, but for the caregivers, for the children.
Your emotions go from, what does this mean to family? What does this mean for joy? What does this mean, quite honestly, selfishly, for me? And your range of emotions runs the gamut.
Soon after giving someone a diagnosis, usually within an hour, I have a husband, a mother, a sister, a brother, somebody comes in, and it's an entire family that is going to be dealing with this.
You don't always know what to say, where to put yourself. Sharsheret is really helpful in guiding you through supporting your family and your loved ones.
As a breast cancer survivor, having received support to be able to be a part of the Sharsheret network, to pay back and do that for others is tremendously empowering.
Sharsheret is the Hebrew word for chain, and it symbolizes the connections that Sharsheret makes within our community, because there is power in community.
Finding other people who are going through the same thing makes you feel like you're not by yourself.
We are a very large family. We didn't want to join this club, but since we're in it, we do provide that connectedness and feeling of a family helping each other out wherever we are in the country.
I was offering support to women and their families. And it was the first time in 25 years that I didn't feel isolated anymore.
Those people who helped me and who were so wonderful, now that's me. That was at a point where I think I stopped crying. I felt like, okay, I'm really here, and now I'm helping somebody else.
All right, well, thank you so much. And we'll send it over back to Sharsheret to bring us home here. So over to you guys. Thank you so much for mixing with us as well.
Thank you, Parker, and thank you all for getting a glimpse into Sharsheret tonight. My name is Alana Silber, and I am the CEO of Sharsheret, and I am beyond thrilled and grateful to see all of you, and thank you so much for everyone for joining us tonight. I mean, we have a ton of people on the call. At one point, I think we had 140 people. So thank you everyone for coming on, and really thank you so much for your support. Tonight, we've raised over $42,000, and you know, huge round of applause for everyone. I think it's just reflective of the incredible community that we have at Dallas. Even though it's Zoom, we can't hear so much, I can feel the energy that we've been fortunate to feel over the last few years. Sharsheret was introduced to Dallas a number of years ago through our board member, Lizzie Greif, who's on the call tonight. Thank you, Lizzie. And she introduced us to Dallas, and ever since then, we've been close friends. We've been doing events in Dallas a couple of years ago. Elaine Perlman, also on the committee tonight, opened up her home, and we had 150 women in her backyard learning important information about Sharsheret, about breast cancer, about ovarian cancer, about genetics. And then last year, again, we did another event in Dallas at the JCC, and again, filled the room with over 100 people. Some of you were there that night. That's where we met Jody and Kim for the first time. So there's a close relationship here with Dallas and Sharsheret, and we thank you. And tonight's event is a success, already a success. Not only because we had a terrific mixology class, but also so many people on the call. And the true success is what's going to happen after this call tonight. Inevitably, after these events, as it was in the previous events, women and families who learn about Sharsheret tonight and learn about the important cause through the stories that we're hearing, reach out to Sharsheret for support. And to us, that's the true success. So thank you. A huge thank you. Tonight would not have been able to happen without Jody Stein and Kim Stein. They have the same name, no relation from what I'm told, but clearly in sync. So thank you, Jody and Kim, who approached us and really had their goals were to bring the community together, something we all need at this time, in a positive way, give back to the community, and ultimately save lives. And they thought of every single detail, even from the title, Mocktails and Cocktails, you know, keeping in mind the importance of healthy living and the connection between healthy living and reducing cancer risk, to planning the invitation to the incredible giveaways that they were sharing, and introducing us to the most amazing group of women who made up this committee. We had an opportunity to come together, and honestly, hearing all their stories and their commitment and their passion for the cause is why tonight we're all here. So I just wanted to really give a shout out to this incredible committee, Morgan Aaron, Mandy Ginsberg, Lizzie and Jules Greif, Sarah and Jonathan Lamensdorf, Laura Miller and Steve Woolens, Elaine and Trevor Perlman, Elizabeth and Iris Savetsky, Mimi and Ben Slater, Nicole Small, Kim and Jared Stein, Jody and Kyle Stein, I also wanted to do a huge thank you. She's very quiet. She's on the call tonight from Sharsheret, Ellen Kleinhaus, who worked tirelessly night and day with Kim and Jody, who they didn't stop for a minute to make tonight to make tonight successful. Also, I wanted on the video, you got a little glimpse into what Sharsheret is and what Sharsheret means and some of the people. And Sharsheret is a national Jewish organization. And while our expertise is in young women and Jewish families, Sharsheret helps women and families of all backgrounds. In fact, 20 to 25% of those who reach out to Sharsheret for support do not identify as Jewish. So as you learn more about the organization and you meet people who may benefit from Sharsheret, I encourage you to refer them to Sharsheret. All of our services are free and confidential and open to everyone. So thank you all for learning a little bit more about Sharsheret. And I think to really understand what people are going through, it's best to hear the stories from women themselves. So I'd like to introduce you tonight to one of our wonderful guest speakers, Kim Stein. Kim is a young mom who had a thriving career in finance. She worked at Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, and when she was going back to work at the end of her maternity leave, her life completely changed when she was unexpectedly diagnosed with breast cancer. Kim, with all her resilience, is now today dedicating her time to raising her wonderful and very active children and helping others like her by volunteering her time and sharing her experience and knowledge with us at Sharsheret through reviewing our programs, participating in our peer support network, and being a leader on our young professional circle. So I'd love to turn the floor over to Kim, who can share her inspiring story in her own words and take us on her journey from turning adversity into opportunity. So please join me in welcoming Kim.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time away from your busy lives to join us for this call, and thank you for your generous donations. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves thus far and also learned a bit about Sharsheret. Also, thank you so much to the committee. You all are rock stars, and I would do this with you again to raise money for this cause. I would also like to thank Sharsheret for inviting me onto the Young Professionals Board and for giving me a voice. I will never forget the package that I received from Sharsheret right after I got diagnosed with breast cancer. It had a beautiful pillow inside and crafts for my children. I will also never forget when my grandmother came into town from New York City, and it happened to be during a highly informative Sharsheret panel at the JCC. My grandmother, mother, and I attended the panel, and we listened to the complicated issues surrounding genetic testing. When I first connected with Ellen Kleinhaus at the very end of this past August, she said that the bottom line is that Sharsheret is about saving lives by educating women and men about genetic testing and routine screenings. But it's also about supporting those that are facing a breast or an ovarian cancer diagnosis. I thought, I want to save lives. And I also really want to help those that are fighting for their lives. Today, I'm going to share some very personal details with you about my journey because I'm hoping that by drawing back the curtain, you may learn some things that you didn't necessarily know about what it is to go through breast cancer and what it all means. Maybe one of you has a close friend or a cousin or a daughter or a mother who's going through it, and one piece of this very personal story can be helpful, so here it goes. At the age of 39 in April of 2019, I was diagnosed with triple positive breast cancer 3.5 months after our third child was born. Jared and I spent the last 4 years creating our family, beginning in 2015 with the birth of our first son, Dylan. Our second son, Jake, was delivered in the spring of 2017, and our third child, our daughter, Sophia, was delivered at the end of 2018. 3 kids under the age of 4 years old. I was so excited to return to life without being pregnant. I was at the very end of my maternity leave and had gone for a mammogram on a Thursday, knowing that I was to return to work on Monday. I was almost turned away by the mammogram tech that day because I was not far away enough from breastfeeding, but I got special permission by my internist to go through, thank God. I was called back in on Friday for more imaging. By the end of Friday afternoon, I had biopsies taken and was told by doctors that they were 95% sure I had cancer and that one of my lymph nodes looked involved as well. By Monday, I received the definitive cancer diagnosis. Fortunately, the lymph node was cancer-free. I had no history of breast cancer in my family, and I was not positive for any of the breast cancer genes, at least not the ones that have been discovered. I was initially worked up at UT Southwestern in Dallas, and then we headed to MD Anderson. We were booked with a doctor that specializes in pregnancy-associated breast cancer. Who knew that cancer was a potential risk of pregnancies? I had never heard of such a thing. Fortunately, both institutions agreed on my treatment protocol. So I decided to have my chemo treatments at UT Southwestern to be close to my children and to try to keep things as normal as possible. We think it was the back-to-back pregnancies with the high levels of hormones during those pregnancies that led to my breast cancer. However, it's also entirely possible that I have a gene that has not yet been discovered. And in either scenario, those pregnancies and high levels of hormones probably facilitated the cancer. My pathology was triple positive, which means that I was estrogen positive, progesterone positive, and HER2 positive. The high levels of estrogen experienced during pregnancy acted as food for cancer. The HER2 part of the cancer is the aggressive part of the cancer that is treated with Herceptin, the miracle cancer drug that burst onto the scene about 20 years ago and was a huge game changer. It used to be the case that being HER2 positive was a death sentence, but now that Herceptin exists, the conversation has turned more towards reconstruction and having a better quality of life. My proliferative index was high, and my cancer was extensive in my right breast. I likely had cancer while I was pregnant and while I was breastfeeding Sophie. So I was unbelievably lucky that I caught this before it spread to a lymph node. My 6 chemo sessions, 3 weeks apart, were anything but a spa day. Cold capping started 45 minutes before chemo and ended 90 minutes after chemo, which meant that my head was completely frozen for about 5 to 6 hours in attempts to preserve my hair. I had 4 chemotherapy drugs that would go through my port in a single file line, one of which would need to be accompanied by icing my hands and my feet while chewing on ice for an hour straight. I did this in order to avoid neuropathy in my hands and feet and also to avoid mouth sores. I used ice packs over my eyebrows to try and save them. The icing on my hands and feet and mouth worked every time, but I was unable to save my hair. My eyebrows fell out during chemo sessions 4, 5, and 6, and my hair started to fall out 3 weeks after the first round of chemo. Losing my hair was incredibly traumatic. My hair was all over the house. My eldest son, Dylan, would run around with a dustbuster and say, "Mommy, I'm gonna buy you new hair." It just kept coming and coming. I was hoping that I would eventually get to a point where the cold cap would penetrate more of my head since I had less hair, so I kept wearing it and I refused to give up. Eventually, towards the end, my head was pretty much bald, at which point the representative for the cold cap company told me to keep wearing it because it would protect the hair follicles and speed up hair regrowth. So I was wearing the cold cap on my bare head, which was even more painful. During chemo 5, I was up all night the night before because my son Jake was in the hospital for breathing issues, and then we went straight into my chemo. I had an unbearable headache from the cold cap afterwards, and then I woke up with fever, which resulted in a couple of days in the hospital. I was diagnosed with sepsis, and during that stay, I was given penicillin, which I'm allergic to. This was followed by almost 1 week of intense itching and a rash all over my body. In addition to the allergic reaction, I had the many usual side effects from chemo: styes in my eyes, extreme fatigue, nosebleeds, stomach aches, and rashes. Treatment also included routine heart sonograms with every other chemo session in order to monitor my heart function, as the combination of the chemo drugs I was on has the propensity to cause heart failure, heart damage. Chemo 4 was postponed because my heart function had decreased too much from the previous sonogram as a result of the Herceptin. All I wanted was to power through the chemo as fast as possible, and the postponement of the session was a frustrating setback. Thankfully, I was able to jump back into rotation the following week due to the over-aggressive interpretation of the sonogram, but at the time it was scary, and the one doctor that could interpret the echo was on vacation, but we tracked him down. One of our committee members has a close friend that just went through a bout of fainting spells, and figured out that the chemo affected her heart, and she now has a pacemaker. After the first 6 chemo sessions ended, I continued with infusions of both Herceptin and Perjeta every 3 weeks for a full year from the day of diagnosis, delivered through my port, and those infusions ended in April. The double mastectomy was off to a good start with clear lymph nodes that were surgically removed the week prior. Due to the aggressive nature of the mastectomy and some complications, I also did 11 hyperbaric dives to help with the healing process. Including the surgery to have my chemotherapy port placed and removed, I had 8 surgeries through this whole process, and I still have 1 more left. It was decided that I should have a total hysterectomy, which included my ovaries, tubes, and uterus removed. Emotionally, this was an easier decision to make because I have frozen embryos. It's important to know that chemo can have a catastrophic effect on fertility, and obviously the hysterectomy puts the nail in the coffin. I was very fortunate to have just given birth to my 3rd child when I found out I had cancer. It was this internal gratitude and point of view that got me through, because my thought was that if I was destined to get breast cancer, I would rather get it while the kids are young and likely wouldn't remember it, and while I am young and could put up the fight of my life. I understood that shit happens and that I got unlucky on this one, but that within the unluckiness, I was very lucky having just given birth to 3 healthy children, except for that the damn cold cap wasn't doing its job. I was also very fortunate to have had the best care, to have a husband that's a doctor that came with me to every appointment and that was staying up all night reading papers on the medications and the outcomes, and who even learned how to put my cold cap on for each chemo session, which was a total liability. I was lucky to have a physician mother-in-law who pulled strings to get me to the front of the line for every radiology scan, and a van full of family, including my husband, brother, mom, dad, and mother-in-law, coming with me to MD Anderson both times. I literally had the A-team getting me through this process, and we were covered by great insurance. And even then, I still had more complications than I had time to take you through tonight. There are so many women that don't have what I had, and 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer at some point. Sharsheret offers to set women up with the right teams of doctors to help them get through the genetic testing process, to hook them up with support groups, to offer financial support to women going through treatment, skincare and makeup kits, and the list goes on. How could we not support an organization like this when 12.5% of women are going to go through this in their lifetime? And I only took you through the PG details. If you'd like to increase your donation, please look in the chat box and click on the link. Alternatively, you can Google Sharsheret and donate through the website. And if you run into difficulty there, you can just text the committee member that you know best, and we will walk you through it. Thank you again for taking the time out of your lives to be on this call. It really means so much to me and the rest of the team tonight. And I think Mandy's next.
Yeah, Kim, I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing so personally. Not only did you move every single person on this call, but I think the amount that you've educated all of us is incredible. And there will be questions after this. So again, feel free to reach out. And Kim, really, I want to wish you all the best and continue to keep us updated on anything you learn and anything that we can share with everyone out there. It's really, really important. And you've been through a lot, and we appreciate you allowing us in just for tonight. So thank you. And our next speaker is someone who can give us a different perspective. Breast cancer is not just one disease, and ovarian cancer. There are so many breast cancers and so many different diseases. And there's also a risk of developing breast cancer and ovarian cancer, a genetic risk, a hereditary risk. So our next speaker, Mandy Ginsberg, who is a top female tech CEO who ran the fastest growing tech company, one of the fastest growing tech companies in the world with dating apps like Tinder, Match.com, and Hinge. Mandy is what some people like to call a pre-vivor. She has an extensive family history of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And when she turned 40, Mandy opted for preventive surgeries to reduce her risk for cancer. Mandy chose to address her issues, her health issues head on, and talk pretty openly about her journey. So in essence, she made her situation public, and then others were able to follow her lead, with the concept of taking care of yourself and making that a real priority for the thousands of people who work for her. So please join me in welcoming Mandy as she shares her personal story with us tonight.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see all these faces that I know and some I'm related to and some I've known since childhood. I listened to that video and it talked about the fact that the woman on the video said, I'm part of this club. And I am part of this club, meaning that I tested positive for the BRCA1 gene. Not the best club to be a part of, but I feel so fortunate that unlike so many above me, my generations above me, I knew. And so I'm here today and I don't look ahead and think that I'm gonna have 10 years to live like my mother and my aunt, my great aunt and my grandmother. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So about 20 years ago, my mom, Joy Ginsberg, and her sister and best friend, they lived 6 houses down from each other, Gay Goldman, were diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And about 5 years later, they died about a year apart from each other. And I remember when my mom was pretty sick and it was really the end, we kind of knew it was the end. We went to Baylor in Dallas and we were talking to our oncologist and we were sitting in the waiting room waiting to get admitted. And I asked him, I said, do you have a genetic test around that we could take? We've been meaning to do that. And he said, yes, I have one left. And he grabbed it from the top of the counter. I'll never forget it. And he said, let's just do it now. And my mom died later that night. And 2 weeks later, I got the call from him and he said, listen, I got the results back. And I said, yeah, my mom's positive with the BRCA gene. He's like, yes. And he said, you got to come in here and get a test. So I took a test and about 2 weeks later, he called me up and I said, I know I'm positive. And he said, how do you know that? I'm like, I just knew. I was so much like my mom in so many ways. I just feel like I am. And I was. And so, I was young at the time. I was in my 30s. I actually hadn't had my second child at that time. And so I decided I was going to post having that kid about a year later, I was going to really go through the process because I watched my aunt and my mom die and I was so close to both of them that I just thought I can't do it. And I have 2 beautiful daughters. One is right here. She's 22. So I have these daughters and I want to raise them and I want to watch them as they grow and move through life. And so it was a hard decision, but a sort of obvious one for me to go through a prophylactic mastectomy and preventive oophorectomy. And I removed my, my ovaries, my uterus, etc. But the big challenge is at the time I was running a $30 billion technology company. And there was a lot going on and we had just gone public. And so it was just weighing all these things. And I decided ultimately that I would move forward because I really did not want to take the risk. And my, one of my, at the time, my boss said, you're better off alive than dead. I'm like, well, thanks. But it really made it obvious that I have to sort of take these health risks, it's head on. So I decided pretty, it was in a unique position. I decided to tell my management team, to tell the board, and to tell people that I was disappearing for a few weeks. I was such a hands-on operator at Match Group, and I just didn't want to disappear and not tell anyone. And it gave me an opportunity as a woman leader and as a mom and as someone who needed to take care of myself to be able to run a company and take care of others that I need to address this head on, and I did. And so I talked to my employees really openly about it. I talked to my team really openly about it, and I ultimately talked about it in the press as well. What it did, which I didn't sort of understand the impact that would have, is that so many people in the organization really thought about health in a different way, especially the women in the organization, because these are things that 20 years ago you didn't talk about. And more people are talking about these issues and how to address these issues. So what was really surprising to me is I had about 20 people say to me that as a result of me talking openly about it and really encouraging the organization to take care of themselves so they could be productive members of our team and our community at work, They needed to make sure they prioritize themselves. Anyway, as a result, about 20 people that I knew tested, and 6 tested positive for the BRCA1 and 2, BRCA1 and BRCA2. And so I felt like, gosh, I mean, if I can just speak up and educate and talk to people about my story, then you know, maybe it'll change people's path and people's life moving forward, and not just with my own family, but with theirs. And so the reason I spoke today, and the reason I speak so openly, is because I just feel incredible, as I heard, gratitude that I am the generation that stopped this trend. I'm 50. My mom died at 60. My aunt died in her young 60s as well. My grandmother and great aunt died in their 60s. I would have 10 years to live, which is not a lot of time, especially when you have a kid who's about to have a bat mitzvah. And so I just feel that I am the generation to know, and my mom wasn't. And so the one thing I would say to the people on this call, and so many of us have gone through this on the call, I know, because I know so many of you, is that just talk a lot about it, encourage people to get tested, and talk openly about these issues, because we have the ability to not just save lives, but to prolong the ones that wouldn't have been prolonged otherwise. So anyways, thank you so much for all your work. And I hope we continue to fight this battle, make sure that women in our community, and men too, really take that step and do something about their futures to change it.
Wow, Mandy, thank you so much. And again, I think we've been really fortunate tonight to hear both from Mandy and Kim, because we've learned a lot. And everyone on this call can take away these important points that we've learned from Mandy. There are things we can do today to protect our health, whether you're at risk or whether you're diagnosed with breast cancer and ovarian cancer. We can do things. And as these women really are the women that represent Sharsheret. Sharsheret is about providing support for each other and empowering women and men to take the necessary steps to protect your health. So I encourage everyone, we have this campaign called Tell Two people about what you've learned tonight. You can't imagine the ripple effect you will have. And if they don't understand what you're saying, don't worry, just give them our number, give them our email, send them to our website, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We want to share information. The worst thing that we want to hear from someone is say, I wish I had known about Sharsheret when I needed you the most. We understand what it's like to go through breast cancer and ovarian cancer or be at increased risk, and we can help. So I want to thank everyone for coming on tonight, the committee, to the speakers, to the entertainment. It was an amazing night. I think in this time that we're living in, to bring so many people together, and so many of you are still on the call, so kudos to you, because this is hard to sit in front of a screen for a long time. But I, for one, could say that I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Thank you, everyone. Stay well, stay safe, and stay in touch. Thank you.